For what purpose the gentlewoman from New York rise?
Mr. Speaker, I move to strike the requisite number of words.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. The National Endowment for the Arts has a 40-year history of investing in communities across the country to expand access to the arts. The NEA has awarded 2,400 grants spanning communities in all 435 congressional districts. The proposed cuts to the NEA would have a crippling effect on a program that is proven to work. Often when I talk about the arts and how I feel about it, I always say how thankful I am to be able to work in an art building that is a masterpiece. But I'm going to be practical tonight. All we're interested in is money, and that's what I want to talk about. I hope that people will pay attention to what we get for that little bit of money. In FY 2010, the federal government invested $167.5 million in the NEA for the purpose of providing funding to nonprofit arts organizations. That funding created $166.2 billion in total economic activity, supported 5.7 million jobs, and listen to this one, and generated to the U.S. Treasury $12.6 billion in tax revenue. That does not include the state tax revenue or the local tax revenue. So we spent $167 million and got back $12.6 billion. I defy anybody in here to tell us that we get that kind of return on any money we spend here. I wish we could find more ways to multiply our money by such a magnitude while enhancing the public good at the same time. Investment opportunities like these are few and far between, and we should be expanding our investment in such a successful program, not cutting the funding to the bone. I'm the proud co-chair of the Congressional Arts Caucus, a group that's supported the NEA for almost 30 years. The Arts Caucus is composed of 186 dedicated bipartisan members who are committed to the growth and the success for the arts. And why? Because the arts make a difference. The NEA reached its peak level of funding in fiscal year 1992, but has never fully recovered from a 40% cut in fiscal year 1969, when once again people mischaracterized the work of the NEA. We've seen progress with increasing NEA funding since fiscal year 2008, but just last year the NEA was forced to deal with a crippling cut again to its annual budget. If this year's appropriations bill takes effect, the NEA will have had its budget cut by 20% in just the last few months. These cuts are not sustainable and do great harm to the success of the arts sector across the country. There's widespread national support for the NEA and the arts, including Westinghouse and Bravo. And actually, what really happened so much for us, it was so good, was when Westinghouse and Bravo, Westinghouse particularly said they would rather hire people who had a background in art because of what they were able to do, their innovation, using both sides of the brain. Bravo was wonderful, advertising all the time how important arts are to the children in this country. The bipartisan U.S. Conference of Mayors made art a priority in their 10-point plan, saying federal resources must also be invested in nonprofit arts organizations through their local art agencies with full funding of the federal arts and cultural agencies. In addition, I have a letter from 26 national art organizations urging Congress to prevent any further reduction to the investment in our nation's arts and culture infrastructure, and I ask unanimous consent to submit for the record.
The request will be recovered under general leave.
The simple truth is that funding the arts creates jobs. There are 756,007 arts-related businesses in the United States that employ 3 million people. In my district, there are 1,229 arts-related businesses that employ 15,864 people. And remember what has already been said so well by Mr. Simpson, is that this is seed money from the National Endowment for the Arts, which brings in other money, public money, private money, which is terribly important to make these programs survive. And these programs, as I've already pointed out, are an economic gold mine. They employ a creative workforce, they spend money locally, they generate government revenue, and are a cornerstone of tourism and economic development. Along with creating and supporting jobs, the arts provide job skills to our nation's youth. This is very important to understand. that are marketable to the innovative companies that drive our economy and push America to the forefront in the global marketplace. I've already mentioned Westinghouse, but there are many more. Exposure to the arts fosters learning, discovery, and achievement in our country. Research has proven, this is, again, simply a fact. Research has proven participation in arts education programs stimulates the creative, holistic, subjective, and intuitive portions of the human brain. For example, we know for a fact that...
The gentlewoman has expired.
5 minutes? May I ask for unanimous consent for 2 more minutes?
Is there objection? Gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank you very much. For example, doctors, the one we've been told by the University of Davis, California, Davis, that the only doctors who really understand what they hear in a stethoscope are those who have studied music. High school music students score 102 points higher on the SATs than their peers. Students with 4 years of art in high school attain 57 points more on their SAT. So we're making an investment in our students and our future. But they play other important roles elsewhere in the economy. They're attracted to business, comes to communities with heavy arts. We see that everywhere there is art in existence. Presence of the arts can revitalize rural areas, inner cities, areas struggling with poverty. And that cultural tourism brings in $192 billion every year, $192 billion to the U.S. economy. Listen to those figures. I hope to goodness everybody's as impressed as I am. Furthermore, American arts are an important export for the country, bringing in $30 billion more every year. One statistic that I find particularly telling is that in 2010, the attendance at 3 New York museums, the Met, MoMA, and the Guggenheim, exceeded the attendance of all the New York professional sports teams, all of them combined, by over 300,000 visits. People are interested in the arts due in part to the NEA, and they come again and again and bring their families. Well, along with all this, there's a great intrinsic value that we know. I really must say that a lot of people think that art is not important, and they don't think about it or what it does to the human spirit. Art, in so many ways, tells us who we were, who we are, and who we hope to be. And if you think you're not affected by it, tell me what happens to you when you hear taps. Amazing Grace, America the Beautiful. And the stirring that it gives in your whole person makes you want to be better than you are. Please, please don't decimate this program in which we invest so little but get back so very much. I yield back the balance.